Today, I'm going to get into a 2026 housing market reality check. I'm going to let you know exactly what's going on. I'm going to tell you about some scams you need to look out for. And I'm going to tell you the truth so you can figure out how to make this market work for you. Let's do it.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What is up? How to Buy a Homies, David Sidoni back. Here's what's going on today. I'm going to be dropping first-time homebuyer truth bombs so you can take all the current market data that's out there and take the data that I gave you from the last episode and then combine it with today's housing market reality check. There's going to be no sugarcoating, no sales pitch. This is some straight shit. It ain't pretty. So here goes. Buying a house in 2026 means this. You missed the big increase in homeowner profits. Sorry, that's the reality. And it's added another layer of confusion that you need to untangle as you're a first-time homebuyer. Because in this new reality, the math, it's not as great as it was for people just a few years ago. But when you look at it deeply, the math clearly shows that your only way to achieve financial wins in this new market, both the economy and the housing market, is through a rent replacement strategy. Now, if you're new to the show, start at episode 500, you get the ultimate 10-step starter guide for every first-time home buyer. And then if you're looking for the nitty-gritty details on how to find out all your questions, like how much can you truly afford, how do you get a home loan, or looking for tips on inspections, negotiations, or anything else, check the show notes of this episode and search the episode guide. That's where you're going to find everything that every first-time homebuyer needs to know. But today's episode, I'm going to cut through the noise and all the BS that you might be hearing out there. I'm going to bring you some brand new tips and also some good news as well, because first-time homebuyers, they are finding advantages. And I'm also going to make sure that you're aware of the scams to look out for, want to make sure you're protected. And then finally, I'm going to wrap this episode up with where you can get the data and math so that you can figure out, okay, I want to go ahead and do this, even though I listened to all the hardcore truth bombs from David, but let me make sure I understand the math. All right, I'm going to try to move quick because some of this stuff, it's not so fun when you hear it. But once you get it all in context, you'll actually be motivated and inspired to move forward. All right, here's the first reality check. I read a recent CNBC survey that says that housing costs are the #1 political issue for young voters as we head into the midterm elections here in 2026. Okay, let me kill this myth right now. I'm going to say this next part in all caps. The government is not going to save you and make things easier for first-time home buyers, including that joke of an affordable housing bill that just passed, or the midterm elections, or the Federal Reserve. Again, all caps. Government laws and policies will not save you or make things any easier for first-time homebuyers. I say this all with love because there is no rescue life preserver coming. The data says what you need to do is you need to learn how to build a new boat so you don't drown. That's the harsh truth of what's happening. Because here are the numbers. Millennials right now, their total net worth has quadrupled since 2019, thanks to housing. It went from 3.94 trillion to 15.95 trillion. And that's because a lot of the older millennials, they scored the housing lottery. The median under 35 millennial, their net worth is only $39,000. The median over 35 years old, that millennial net worth is $135,600 because a lot of them got into housing in the early 2020s and rode the appreciation wave. Since June 2020, the median home price in the U.S. is up 49.2%. That's a lot of free net worth just for paying your mortgage. So why would I tell you that? That's just crappy to throw that in your face. It's actually not. Because the reality, when you understand it, then you know what to do next. You missed the quadruple era. So your solution is to get out of renting ASAP so you don't drown. Learn how to build a boat that's going to be a financial game piece that you're going to be able to use in 5 or 10 years so that you can get into whatever the next quadruple era is. And here's another truth bomb that's going to be hard to swallow. We've entered a new home buying era, and Harvard, well, they just handed you the receipts. They put an actual number on the thing that you've been feeling in your gut for years, and it's $120,000. That's the household income, according to their report, that it takes to afford the payment on a median home price in America in 2026. Now, in 2020, that number was only $66,000. So let that sink in for a second. And then let's talk about what this actually means for you. I told you this is going to be harsh, no BS, because I want you to know the truth so that when we talk about the solutions, you'll understand how important it is, because these solutions, they get started as soon as you start owning a home, because it's only going to get worse from here. Giving up and waiting for a crash or a government bailout, that's only going to put you even more behind. So Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, they released the State of the Nation Housing Report, and that $120K, that was their figure. The monthly payment on the median home, that's nearly doubled too, from $1,700 a month in 2020 to roughly $3,100 by where we're sitting right now. And there's another stat, the price to income ratio, meaning how many years of income it takes to buy the median home. Right now, that's sitting at 5 to 1. 5 years of annual salary to buy a home outright. And in the 1990s, that ratio only averaged 3 to 1. So we are off the historical charts. So, hey, that really sucks. But you know what? It's important that you just understand the game has changed. And you need to know all this. You need to be more informed than ever. Don't worry, I got you. There are solutions. With the right planning, that $120K number, that is definitely not for everybody. That is not a hard and fast rule. But what it tells us is that you can't think about buying your first home the same way the first-time homebuyers thought about it in generations past. Hell, you can't even use the same thinking as first-time homebuyers from 4 years ago. See, a middle-class income used to buy a middle-class home in this country. But that wasn't because it was some natural law of economics. And you can't just wait for that to come back, because it isn't a natural law. It was built. It was built on purpose, brick by brick. Started way back when with the GI Bill. And then there was FHA loans and VA lending and the invention of the 30-year fixed mortgage rate itself. And then decades and decades of wages actually keeping pace with home prices. People built that road and it worked for generations. But recently we've seen, piece by piece, the bricks that we used to build that road to home ownership, they've been replaced, removed, or just paved over. One of the real estate industry's biggest publications just ran a piece with this exact headline. America's affordability crisis isn't cyclical, it's structural. So here we go. The cycle's not coming back. It's not cyclical. This is a structural shift, a complete rebuilding on how to buy a home. The old road, that's not coming back. And for the informed buyer who wants some kind of chance at a better life, this isn't a reason for you to give up. It's a reason to stop waiting for a version of normal and start building a plan for the abnormal market that we're living in today. Listen to the interviews from the past 3 years. With the right information, people are finding affordable solutions and finding a new path to the old American dream. Remember, 24 and 25, it was actually more difficult for buyers because interest rates were higher. And I'll get to more of those solutions in a little bit, but right now, here comes another reality check. Let's talk about the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. It officially became a law on July 11th, passed the Senate 85-5 and passed the House 358-32. And it's the first major federal housing bill enacted since the 1990s. And you know what? It didn't do squat for first-time homebuyers. It's aimed at getting more houses built over the next several years. Definitely not right now, and definitely not helping you afford a home this year or next year. This is not a buyer assistance bill in any way. It doesn't create nationwide down payment assistance programs. There's no first-time homebuyer tax credits, not a penny, not a dollar. It doesn't lower rents. It doesn't lower mortgage interest rates and doesn't offer anything to fix that problem. And it doesn't immediately increase housing inventory to reduce home prices. People think, hey, I thought it was making communities build more housing. Well, there are some minor incentives and grants, but there's no mandates. And if your local city council doesn't want to build, this bill can't force them to do it. And, Congress, they didn't even actually fund all these grants. They still need separate appropriations before they're real for anybody. And then the one that really drives me crazy, all the big noise about banning the big hedge fund people. Get those Wall Street fat cats out of buying up homes. Well, this bill does nothing to make them sell all the inventory they've already gobbled up. They don't have to sell any of the homes they currently own, which means no new inventory for you. And get this, in an earlier version of the bill that was going through the Senate, there was a sell-off mandate, Of course, it still gave them 7 years to sell them off. But then even that weak sauce part of the bill, it got removed for the final bill that was passed. And I could do an hour right now on why that happened, because it really pisses me off. Because it was a bipartisan committee, both sides, red and blue, that came in and went, oh, you know what? Let's get rid of that 7-year sell-off. Really? 7 years? Like that was such a terrible thing? But you know why they got rid of it? Because most of the committee members who were on both sides, Democrat and Republican, they all received big campaign funding from the new home builders. I'll get more into the new home builders' contributions to the housing crisis a little bit later. So this bill, it does nothing to force the hedge funds to sell their inventory or to relieve the inventory shortage. The only ban, entities owning more than 350 homes, they can't buy anymore. And that doesn't even take effect until 180 days after the enactment of the bill. So we're talking that doesn't even start till January 2027. So the bill, reality check, if you're planning to buy a home in the next 1 to 3 years, this bill does nothing for you. Nothing for your wallet and nothing for your home buying timeline. That was a lot. Have you had enough reality? Here's a headline that you'll like. Good news for buyers. Home builders are cutting home prices all over the U.S. This is true. New home sales have dropped 7.3%. And according to analysis from Realtor.com, builders, well, they overestimated the demand for this year for their finished housing products, and they are slashing prices in many cities. The way it works is it's kind of like, a car lot. New home builders are making deals because they've got to clear the lot of last year's model, because what they really want to do is move on to new projects that can make them more and new profits. Here's just a few examples of what we've seen this year with the builders trying to get these homes off the shelves. There's new incentives coming out every week. Pulte Home Builders, they reported that their nationwide builder incentives in 2026, they've been seen at levels this year at 10.9% of the home price. That's like over $50K on a $500,000 home. We've seen builders offering all sorts of different incentives, everywhere from $10,000 up to $50,000 and $60,000. What they're doing is they're offering them via mortgage interest rate buydowns, closing cost credits, cash back to you, and a lot of them are also offering design allowances. Now, all these incentives, they are hyper local and they're time limited. So I can't even report any that are happening right now, because by the time this recording comes up, they could actually change. And they're all tied to specific communities and contract close window dates. So if you want to check these out, this could be one new tract that's offering deals, or this could be a tract where there's 2 or 3 homes that are offering deals because they're trying to close up shop and move out. So it's a really good idea to start working with your teams. Have your realtor and your lender monitor all the new home construction in your area ASAP. I want you to do this right now, even if you haven't hit your target savings numbers or your loan approval numbers yet. Because think about it, if you're $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 short, you might find that much in incentives. That could move your numbers from a target saving position to, oh my gosh, we can put an offer on this one. So this is great news for you, but here's the reality check on this. If you go in there and you buy a home directly through the builder and you use directly the builder's lender, you've got a really good chance of getting scammed. There are some blatant scams with the new home builders you need to be aware of. Mortgage interest rate buydowns, they're the biggest and most plentiful sales incentive that new builders are tossing around, especially this year, but you need to be really careful. These require you to use the builder's lender only. And they have a financial connection with the transaction and the builder themselves. And these incentives, they might look great, but they can cost you more than if you'd gone out and you'd explored options with your own independent lender. I've been preaching about this for years. It really should be illegal. It's what we call a RESPA violation in real estate. But these builder lender incentives, they have so much ridiculous fine print. And some of them, they're straight up scams. The standard one that I see all the time is, hey, you get $10,000 off your closing costs if you use our lender. The reality is that $10,000 you get, you still end up generally paying for it through a higher interest rate, because that financier, that lender, they're owned by the builder. And like car dealerships, the builders, they're making half their money on the financing side of the transaction. And check out this scam. I saw a recent report about a lawsuit against D.R. Horton and DHI Mortgage, the mortgage company that's in bed with D.R. Horton. They were deliberately only including a fraction of the required property taxes in the initial PITI monthly mortgage payment calculations, the stuff that they were presenting to the buyers, which of course resulted in a much lower, much more attractive payment to those unaware buyers. The true cost, that only got revealed to them after closing. Now, this is all in a lawsuit, and so I have to say allegedly, but here's what the lawsuit says. They were basing the taxes on the land only, not the land with the improvements, like, a house. And of course, that significantly improves the value, and that means the true taxes need to be paid on that value, which means it's going to be a lot more. Now, if this happened once or twice, cool, mistake. But the fact that it happens so often, it shows that there was allegedly a deliberate intention. The plaintiffs that were named in the suit, they described shock because they were promised payments of, one of them said $2,602. And after it closed, it went to $3,439 because the escrow account that holds the taxes got recalculated. And several more didn't even know about this for months. And it was only after their loan that they got was sold to a different lender, which does happen after you own a home. When the new lender looked at it, well, they went, oh, you have a huge tax bill. And you know what? You're late on paying your taxes. So now you got tax fees along with a $1,000 increase in the new monthly payment. Again, once or twice, maybe I'd say no one was trying to scam you, but this was happening systemically. Yeah, the new home builders, they are offering deals to you right now, but be sure you have your own representation because you got to protect yourself and cover your ass. And be wary of being enticed into a loan incentive. It's their favorite thing to do, especially this year. Make sure you have your loan options and payments verified by your own lender who's independent and works for you, not for the home builder. This is your right as a buyer. So on one side of this, right now, you can get major better deals this year because the new home builders, they've got too much inventory, and in some areas, they're very desperate in 2026, and you can get a great home. But do your research, verify everything, and never forget they're about profits for their shareholders first. In fact, let me share a little bit about the new home builder industry for you. I'm not saying they're all scum and trying to rip you off, but never believe that they're looking out for the first-time home buyer, that they're trying to help the little guy get a leg up on the American dream. They are a business, all profits. That's all they're thinking about. The housing inventory shortage, it could 100% have been corrected by the new home construction industry. All the way back to 2013, they could have fixed this anytime they wanted. And you could be buying a home today using the old road to home ownership. You could be buying a home today using that old road to home ownership and not having to go through all the hoops and listen to me in your ear holes all the time to figure out how to make this happen. But here's what they did instead. And I have it all on record because these are quotes from them at public shareholder meetings. In 2024, Lennar described matching sales pace with production and dynamically adjusting prices and incentives to manage inventory and margins, while at the same time acknowledging that there was a chronic national housing shortage. Pulte Group, they told investors in 2005 that it was balancing sales price and sales pace to produce higher returns, even while acknowledging the country structurally had a major housing shortage. And most recently, like just a few months ago, D.R. Horton described its operating approach as this, quote, balancing pace, price, incentives, and inventory levels to maximize returns, unquote. They never said our job is to build as many affordable homes as America needs. We can just make our profits on volume. Nope. They're trying to get profit margin on each individual home. Their business model rewards scarcity. And the country right now is millions of homes short, but the builders, they make more money by controlling releases, prices, production, and avoiding flooding the market with enough homes that could actually restore affordability. But here's the cool thing with this reality check. Right now, some of these builders have overbuilt. And with the right circumstance, screw them. Listen to episode 490. Then that's where you're going to get the complete new home buying guide. Screw those guys. Go out there, get a killer realtor and lender, someone who's going to protect you completely. And then take a look at the inventory in your area. See if you can find one of the things they're trying to get rid of. And then you can turn the tables on these guys and get a screaming deal on some inventory that they just want to get rid of. Okay, the next reality check. Recently, I have seen too much of this crap on social media. The guys that are like, sky is falling and bubbles bursting and the housing crash enthusiasts everywhere. What they're talking about right now is this new statistic. They're talking about the gigantic uptick in foreclosures. Gang, this is not a sign that the housing market's falling apart. I mean, yes, foreclosure numbers, they are increasing right now, but they're increasing from the absolute bottom, historic lows. Here's the numbers. In the last crash we had, when everything fell apart, which is what they're saying is going to happen right now, in 2008, the first half of that year, foreclosures filed, that was at 1.3 million homes. The first half of this year, under 250,000. I was thinking about this when I was pulling up these stats, and I was like, you know what? I was 4'11" when I graduated 8th grade. And over that summer, I had what everyone would say is a huge growth spurt. But you know what? I still started high school at only 5'4", and the basketball team wasn't trying to recruit me, even though I had a huge growth spurt. So I've been shoving a lot of manure at you today. All these truth bombs, these reality checks, and these no-help headlines and political stories. I get why you might feel like you're cooked, trying to buy a home in an impossible market. Well, gang, the truth is, if you're trying to use the old ways to buy a home, it pretty much might be impossible. And sitting around waiting for the old pathway to reemerge, that's not going to do the trick either. I gave you the numbers last episode, the inconceivable episode, that not one credible forecaster is calling for a crash. And I know a lot of people are quietly waiting on that, and they think that's how they get in. That's not the way in. The housing market is slow, sticky. It's even flat in some places, but it is attainable. What's happening right now is the data says that sales are cooling a little bit, but unfortunately, in a lot of places, we're still seeing record high prices. And meanwhile, a record share of young buyers, they're actually getting homes. They put the rent replacement strategy to work for them. So if you want the deeper math on how buyers are actually pulling together down payments without having to wait decades to do it, that's all in episode 426. Go listen to that one today. The new strategy for buying a home is understanding the complete math and looking at your low down payment options. The market makes sense when you're using the right numbers. Now, the rest of that math comes in episode 457, Buy or Wait, and episode 460, the real numbers and the real math on rent versus buy. And after you got all that, that's when it's time to check out episode 489. That's where I lay out the new affordable roadmap for 2026 and 2027. You do have options. I fight like hell around here to make sure that all the information is getting out to the little guy and bringing power to the people, or you know what, even the middle of the pack guy or gal, or however you identify yourself. I know that everybody who is renting for a high rent right now, they feel like they missed the boat to buy. You didn't. We just have to build you a new boat. Damn, I have been mixing my metaphors this whole episode. Build a boat, build a road, whatever. Check the show notes for those episodes and make sure that you mix in some listener interviews, especially if you're getting overwhelmed with all the math, because all those interviews that you find in the episode guide, they're great for motivation to pump you up and to really show you incredible numbers from real life people just like you. Now, I'm not afraid to shoot straight with you and discuss all of these scary headlines because you know what? Knowledge, that's power, and it beats fear every single time. There are affordable ways, and you don't have to be left behind. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers. So visit howtobuy.com to get started.